I never thought I'd be pouring my heart out on Reddit, but here I am, desperate for advice and support. I'm Nancy, 28F, and I'm currently struggling with my husband's family, particularly his sister Jenny, 32F. The relationship between Jenny and me has always been strained, but recent events have pushed things to a breaking point. To give some context, I met my husband Warren, 30M, 5 years ago at a mutual friend's Halloween party. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was dressed as Wonder Woman, and he came as Clark Kent. We spent the entire night talking in a quiet corner, ignoring the chaos of the party around us. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love for hiking, photography, and 80s movies. There was an instant connection that I'd never felt with anyone before. After dating for 2 years, filled with weekend adventures, cozy movie nights, and the occasional argument, usually about Warren's tendency to leave his socks everywhere, we decided to tie the knot. Our wedding was a small, intimate affair in a rustic barn, surrounded by close friends and family. That's when I first met Jenny. From the moment we were introduced, Jenny made it clear that she didn't approve of me. She showed up late to the rehearsal dinner, wearing a white dress that was suspiciously bridal-looking. During her toast, she spent more time talking about her childhood memories with Warren than wishing us well in our marriage. She even accidentally spilled red wine on my dress at the reception. At the time, I chalked it up to wedding day stress and tried to brush it off. As the months passed, Jenny's behavior only worsened. She would make snide comments about my career as a freelance graphic designer, implying that I wasn't good enough for her brother. "Oh, you're still doing that little drawing thing?" she'd say with a condescending smile. "I thought you'd have found a real job by now." Each comment felt like a tiny dagger, chipping away at my self-esteem. Warren comes from a close-knit family, and he's always been protective of Jenny. Their parents passed away in a car accident when Jenny was 18 and Warren was 16, leaving Jenny to raise Warren on her own. She put her own dreams of becoming a nurse on hold to work 2 jobs and support them both. I understand and respect the bond they share, but Jenny seems to use this as a way to manipulate Warren and interfere in our relationship. The first major incident occurred during our first wedding anniversary. Warren and I had planned a weekend getaway to a cozy mountain lodge, the same one where we had our first weekend trip together. I had been looking forward to it for months, planning hikes, picnics, and even a surprise candlelit dinner under the stars. 2 days before we were set to leave, Jenny called Warren in tears, claiming she was going through a tough breakup and needed her brother's support. Warren, being the caring person he is, suggested we postpone our trip to be there for Jenny. I was disappointed but understood the situation. After all, family should come first, right? However, when we arrived at Jenny's place, we found her laughing and drinking wine with her friends. There was no sign of any breakup or distress. When I confronted her about it later, she brushed it off, saying she had just been feeling a bit down and needed some company. "You wouldn't understand, Nancy," she said with a patronizing pat on my arm. "Warren and I have a special bond. Sometimes I just need my baby brother around." Warren didn't see anything wrong with it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Jenny had deliberately sabotaged our plans. As time went on, Jenny's interference in our lives became more frequent and blatant. She would show up unannounced at our house, often during our date nights or when Warren and I had planned some quality time together. Once, she barged in while we were in the middle of a romantic dinner I had spent hours preparing. "Oh, did I interrupt something?" she asked innocently, before making herself comfortable on our couch and turning on the TV. She would call Warren at odd hours, claiming to have various emergencies that always seemed to resolve themselves by the time we got to her. One night at 2 a.m., she called crying about a supposed gas leak in her apartment. We rushed over, only to find her calmly watching a movie, claiming the smell had mysteriously disappeared just before we arrived. The situation came to a head last month during Warren's 30th birthday party. I had spent weeks planning a surprise gathering with all of Warren's friends and colleagues. I even managed to fly in his best friend from college, Mike, who we hadn't seen in years due to living on opposite coasts. The party was in full swing, with everyone enjoying the catered food, open bar, and the slideshow of Warren's life that I had painstakingly put together. Jenny arrived an hour late, stumbling into the living room clearly intoxicated. She was holding a large gift box wrapped in gaudy gold paper. With a smug smile, she announced loudly that she had the best present for her baby brother. The room fell silent as she commanded everyone's attention. Inside the box was a set of keys. Jenny proclaimed that she had bought Warren a classic car he had always wanted, a 1967 Chevrolet Impala, the exact model their father used to drive. I felt my heart sink. My own gift, a handmade photo album documenting our relationship and a weekend trip to his favorite camping spot in Yosemite, suddenly felt inadequate in comparison. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Warren. I could see the conflict on his face. He was clearly touched by the gesture but also uncomfortable with the extravagance of the gift. "Jen," he said softly, "this is too much. How did you even afford this?" But what happened next truly shocked me. Jenny turned to me with a triumphant look and said, "See? This is how you show love. Not with some cheap crafts and a trip to the woods." Her words cut deep, and I felt humiliated in front of all our guests. The room grew uncomfortably quiet, with our friends shifting awkwardly, not knowing where to look. Warren finally spoke up, his voice tight with anger. "Jenny, that's enough. Your behavior is inappropriate, and you need to leave." Jenny's face contorted with rage. She threw the keys at Warren's chest and stumbled towards me, pointing an accusing finger. "You," she slurred. "You've turned him against me. You're ruining our family." She stormed out, knocking over a vase of flowers on her way and slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. The party quickly dissipated after that, with guests making awkward excuses to leave early. I was left standing in our living room, surrounded by half-eaten food and deflated balloons, feeling utterly defeated. After everyone had gone, Warren and I had a long, emotional conversation that lasted well into the night. He apologized for not standing up to Jenny sooner and promised to set clearer boundaries with her. We agreed that Jenny's behavior was toxic and that we needed to limit our contact with her for the sake of our marriage. But as I looked into Warren's eyes, I could see the pain and conflict there. How could I ask him to choose between his wife and the sister who had sacrificed so much for him? The next day, Warren called Jenny to discuss what had happened. He told her that her actions were unacceptable and that she needed to apologize to me if she wanted to continue being a part of our lives. Jenny refused, insisting that she had done nothing wrong and that I was the one causing problems in their family. "I'm the only real family you have left, Warren," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Don't let her take that away from you." Now, we're at an impasse. Warren is torn between his love for me and his loyalty to his sister. I don't want to force him to choose, but I also can't continue living with this constant tension and drama. I'm considering suggesting that we move to a different city to get some distance, but I'm worried about how Warren will react. Will he see it as an ultimatum? Will it only drive him closer to Jenny? I love my husband deeply, and I want to make our marriage work. But I'm starting to wonder if that's possible with Jenny's constant interference. Am I overreacting? Should I try harder to make peace with Jenny for Warren's sake? Or is it time to take more drastic measures to protect our relationship? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of family drama, and I don't know how to find my way back to shore. Update 1: It's been about a month since my original post, and I wanted to give an update on the situation with Jenny. A lot has happened, and I'm still trying to process everything. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support. It really helped me navigate through this difficult time. After my last post, Warren and I had several more conversations about Jenny's behavior and its impact on our marriage. We decided to take a step back from Jenny for a while to focus on our relationship. Warren agreed to limit his contact with her and to always consult with me before making any plans involving his sister. It wasn't an easy decision for him, and I could see the guilt weighing on him, but he understood it was necessary for our marriage. For the first couple of weeks, things were peaceful. Jenny seemed to be respecting our boundaries, and Warren and I were enjoying some much-needed quality time together. We started having regular date nights again, something we hadn't done in months due to Jenny's constant interruptions. We even started planning a vacation for just the two of us, a 2-week hiking trip through several national parks. It was something we talked about doing since we first started dating, but had never found the time for. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about our future. However, about 3 weeks after Warren's birthday party incident, things took an unexpected turn. It was a quiet Sunday evening, and Warren and I were curled up on the couch watching a movie when his phone rang. The caller ID showed it was Jenny's neighbor, Mrs. Johnson. Warren answered, his brow furrowed with concern. As I watched, Warren's face strained of color. He stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over his glass of wine. "We'll be right there," he said, his voice shaking. He turned to me, his eyes wide with fear. "Jenny's been in a car accident. She's at St. Mary's Hospital." The drive to the hospital was tense. Warren gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white, while I tried to get more information from Mrs. Johnson over the phone. Apparently, Jenny had been driving home from a bar when she lost control of her car and crashed into a tree. The police suspected she had been driving under the influence. When we arrived at the hospital, we found Jenny in the emergency room. She was conscious but clearly in pain. Her right arm was in a temporary cast, and her face was covered in small cuts from the shattered windshield. When she saw Warren, she burst into tears, reaching out for him with her good arm. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed as Warren hugged her gently. I messed up. I messed up so bad. I stood awkwardly to the side, torn between sympathy for Jenny's condition and frustration at yet another crisis interrupting our lives. The doctor informed us that Jenny had been lucky. Apart from a broken arm and some cuts and bruises, she hadn't suffered any major injuries. However, she would need someone to look after her for a few weeks while her arm healed. Before I could even process what that might mean, Warren was already volunteering for us to take care of her. "She can stay with us," he said, looking at me with pleading eyes. "Just until she's back on her feet. We can't leave her alone like this." I wanted to object, to remind him of our agreement to maintain boundaries, but how could I say no in this situation? Reluctantly, I nodded my agreement. Jenny moved in with us the next day, and it's been a nightmare ever since. She's constantly demanding Warren's attention, calling him for every little thing. "Warren, can you help me with my pillows? Warren, I need a glass of water. Warren, can you change the channel for me?" It's like she's reverted to being a helpless child, and Warren is all too eager to play the role of protective big brother. She complains about everything. "The food I cook, it's too spicy, Nancy. Don't you know I have a sensitive stomach? The way I've arranged the guest room, the sun comes in too bright in the morning. Can't you get better curtains?" And pretty much everything else she can think of. I try to be patient, reminding myself that she's injured and probably in pain, but it's wearing me down. The worst part is that I'm starting to suspect that Jenny isn't as helpless as she's pretending to be. I've caught her using her injured arm normally when she thinks no one is looking, reaching for the TV remote or adjusting her hair. But the moment Warren walks into the room, she's back to wincing and cradling her arm like it's made of glass. When I mentioned this to Warren, he accused me of being paranoid and unsympathetic. "She's hurt, Nancy," he said, his voice tight with frustration. "Why can't you just be supportive?" I felt like I was going crazy. Was I really being unreasonable, or was Jenny manipulating us both? Last night, things came to a head when I overheard Jenny on the phone with a friend. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but I was walking past the guest room to do laundry when I heard Jenny's voice, unusually animated and cheerful. Curiosity got the better of me, and I paused outside the door to listen. "Girl, you wouldn't believe how well this is working out," Jenny was saying, laughter in her voice. "I've got Warren waiting on me hand and foot. He's so worried about me, it's almost too easy." There was a pause as she listened to her friend's response. "The arm? Oh, it barely even hurts anymore. But they don't need to know that, do you? I'm thinking I can stretch this out for at least another month. Maybe by then, I can get Warren to see how much better off he is with his real family." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All my suspicions were confirmed in the worst possible way. Jenny wasn't just taking advantage of the situation, she was actively trying to drive a wedge between Warren and me. I'm at a loss for what to do. I tried to tell Warren what I overheard, but he didn't believe me. He thinks I'm just trying to get rid of Jenny, that I'm letting my dislike of her cloud my judgment. "Why would she lie about being hurt?" he asked, his voice full of doubt. "That doesn't make any sense, Nancy. I feel like I'm going crazy in my own home, watching this woman manipulate my husband and destroy our marriage. The vacation we had been planning seems like a distant dream now. Instead of hiking through beautiful landscapes together, I'm trapped in a house with a woman who seems determined to ruin my life. I'm considering taking a few days away to clear my head, maybe stay with my friend Lisa. But I'm worried about leaving Warren alone with Jenny and her influence. What if I come back to find that she's completely turned him against me? I love my husband, but I'm starting to wonder if our marriage can survive this. How can we move forward when he doesn't believe me? How can I compete with the bond he shares with Jenny? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I feel like I'm at the end of my rope, and I don't know what to do next. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and the situation with Jenny has taken some unexpected turns. I want to thank everyone who offered advice and support. It really helped me navigate through this difficult time. After my last update, I was at my wit's end. I couldn't stand by and watch Jenny destroy my marriage any longer. Taking the advice of several commenters, I decided to gather concrete evidence of Jenny's deception. I know many of you advised against this, saying it was an invasion of privacy, but I felt I had no other choice. I set up a hidden camera in the living room. I told myself it was just for a couple of days, just to prove to Warren that I wasn't imagining things. Within 2 days, I had irrefutable evidence of Jenny using her injured arm normally when Warren wasn't around. I caught her lifting heavy books, doing her hair, even opening a tight jar lid, all with the arm she claimed was too painful to move. But the real shock came when I recorded a conversation between Jenny and one of her friends who came to visit. Jenny openly mocked me, calling me gullible and saying how easy it was to manipulate Warren. "He's always been a sucker for the damsel in distress act," she laughed. "A few crocodile tears and he's putty in my hands." I felt sick listening to it, But I knew I finally had the proof I needed. With shaking hands, I copied the footage onto a USB drive and waited for Warren to come home from work. When Warren arrived, I sat him down and explained what I'd done. He was upset at first, accusing me of invading Jenny's privacy. But I pleaded with him to just watch the videos. As he saw the footage of Jenny using her arm normally and heard her mocking words, the color drained from his face. "I can't believe this," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Why would she do this?" I didn't have an answer for him, but I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Finally, Warren could see the truth. Warren confronted Jenny that evening. The resulting argument was intense and painful to witness. Jenny tried to deny everything at first, accusing me of doctoring the footage. But when faced with the undeniable evidence, she broke down. Through tears, Jenny admitted to exaggerating her injuries and trying to come between us. She spoke about feeling abandoned when Warren got married, about her fear of losing the only family she had left. It was a side of Jenny I'd never seen before, vulnerable, scared, and deeply insecure. Warren, torn between anger and concern for his sister, asked Jenny to leave our house immediately. She pleaded with him to let her stay, promising to change, but Warren stood his ground. "You need help, Jenny," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. "Professional help. And until you can respect our marriage, you're not welcome here." Jenny left that night, amidst tears and recriminations. The house felt eerily quiet after she was gone. Warren and I sat in silence for a long time, both processing the events of the day. Finally, Warren turned to me and apologized. "I'm so sorry, Nancy," he said, his eyes filled with remorse. "I should have believed you. I should have seen what was happening." We talked long into the night, about trust, about family, about the future of our marriage. For the next few weeks, things were tense but improving. Warren went to therapy to work through his complicated feelings about his relationship with Jenny. We also started couples counseling to rebuild the trust that had been damaged and to strengthen our marriage. Then, about a month ago, we received shocking news. Jenny had been arrested for fraud. Apparently, she had been running a small-scale Ponzi scheme, scamming friends and acquaintances out of their savings. The classic car she had gifted Warren for his birthday? Bought with stolen money. Warren was devastated. He felt guilty for not seeing the signs earlier and for potentially enabling Jenny's behavior over the years. I did my best to support him through this difficult time, reminding him that Jenny's actions were her own responsibility. We've since learned that Jenny's manipulative behavior extended far beyond just our relationship. She had a history of exploiting people's trust and sympathy for her own gain. It was a painful revelation, but it helped Warren understand that her behavior wasn't his fault. As for our marriage, this whole ordeal has been a real test. There are moments when the trust issues resurface, when one of us withdraws into our own thoughts. But we're working through it together. We've learned to communicate more openly and to lean on each other for support. We're still processing everything that's happened, but we're facing it together. Warren has decided to distance himself from Jenny completely until she gets professional help and makes genuine amends. It's been hard for him, but he understands it's necessary for our well-being. We're focusing on healing and moving forward. We've rescheduled that vacation we had been planning, and we're looking forward to some uninterrupted time together. There's still a long road ahead, but for the first time in a long while, I feel cautiously optimistic about our future. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on this chapter of our lives. Warren and I have made significant progress in our relationship. The couples counseling has been incredibly helpful, teaching us better communication skills and how to support each other through difficult times. We've had to relearn how to trust each other, and it hasn't always been easy. There have been arguments, moments of doubt, and nights spent sleeping in separate rooms. But we've also rediscovered the love and connection that brought us together in the first place. Warren has continued with his individual therapy, working through his complicated feelings about Jenny and his past. He's had to confront some hard truths about his childhood and the dynamic between him and his sister. It's been painful for him, but I can see him growing stronger and more self-aware with each passing week. As for Jenny, she pleaded guilty to the fraud charges and is currently serving a 2-year sentence. Warren struggled with whether or not to attend her trial, but ultimately decided against it. He wrote her a letter explaining his decision and expressing his hope that she would use this time to reflect and get the help she needs. We've had no direct contact with Jenny since she went to prison, but we did receive a letter from her about a month ago. In it, she apologized for her actions and the pain she caused us. She explained that she's been diagnosed with several mental health issues and is finally getting proper treatment. While the letter seems sincere, Warren and I are cautious about getting our hopes up. We've agreed that if Jenny shows consistent, long-term change after her release, we might consider slowly rebuilding a relationship with her. But for now, we're maintaining our distance. On a positive note, Warren and I finally took that vacation we had been planning. We spent 2 weeks hiking and camping in national parks, reconnecting with each other and the shared interests that brought us together in the first place. There were moments of tension, old hurts resurfacing in quiet moments around the campfire. But there were also moments of joy, of rediscovering each other away from the pressures of our everyday lives. We've also made some big decisions about our future. We're planning to move to a new city next year for a fresh start. Warren has been offered a great job opportunity, and I'm excited about the potential for my freelance business in a new market. We both feel that a change of scenery will help us leave the drama of the past behind and focus on building our life together. Looking back, I can see how this challenging experience has ultimately strengthened our marriage. We've learned to stand united against external pressures, to trust each other implicitly, and to always prioritize our relationship. Warren has grown so much, learning to set healthy boundaries and recognize manipulative behavior, even from loved ones. As for me, I've learned to trust my instincts and to speak up when something feels wrong. I've also learned the importance of patience and understanding, especially when dealing with complex family dynamics. While the journey has been difficult, I'm grateful for where it has led us. Warren and I are closer than ever, and we're cautiously excited about what the future holds. We know there will always be challenges, but we feel better equipped to face them together. Thank you to everyone who has followed our story and offered support along the way. Your advice and encouragement have been invaluable. Here's to new beginnings and healthier relationships.